Hey Flosstube friends, my name is Lynn and this is my channel Those Missing Stitches, where I talk all about cross stitch and a little bit about reading at the very end. Today is Wednesday, December 3rd, and this is my Flosstube number 35. Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining me. It has been a minute since I filmed. I did miss filming last month. Life has been crazy and time has become a very hot commodity, and it's definitely becoming an even hotter commodity lately. I do a lot. I have a full-time job and I have the side business with the fabric and I like to stitch and I have a family. And it's the holidays, which everybody gets a little busier around the holidays. So it's definitely been a time suck and haven't had a lot of time to film lately. So I do have a lot of catch up to do with you today and some progress on some of my whips. So today I do have a quick business announcement, then I'm going to go over my whips and I will talk about books at the very end. So for the quick business announcement, speaking of time and time being a hot commodity, and really, I went to Stitch West in October, and I'd been thinking about making some changes to my business. I'm down to my last few pieces of inventory, and I need some time to catch up on that and what I have on hand. So I think it's good news, bad news in some ways. Potentially bad news is I'll definitely be slowing down on the made-to-order options that are in my shop. It doesn't mean I'm not going to do made to order. It just means I'm maybe limiting my offerings, and it may be a little bit of a longer timeline for the made to order. But the good news is, once I have had a chance to catch up, I should have more inventory and I should have more ready to ship options. So I should be doing I'm hoping to do more like fabric drops and just have stuff ready to ship that can go out right away. So it's definitely a little bit of a shift to how I've operated things the last couple of years. I do plan on bringing back made to order at some point, but I do just need a little bit of time to get caught up. And that, I'm not really sure how long that's going to take me. It may take me a while, but keep checking out the store. Feel free to email me if there's something you're interested in, and I can give you a timeline of when I do think I can do custom orders as things come into my shop. But will be a bit of a shift, and I think it might be helpful for me in my life and the time that I have to dedicate to this as well. So I'm also considering adding a fabric of the month, maybe towards the middle of the year once I am caught up. So I'm interested in hearing from all of you if that's something you're interested in. I know finances are really tight for a lot of people, and they're getting even tighter for everyone. So fabric of the month clubs may not be something that's on your radar or financially feasible for you now, but I'm also interested in hearing if someday I'd like to do it. I just really probably can't do it anytime soon. I'm interested in all opinions. So please, whatever your thoughts are, leave them in the comment below. Or if you want something more private, feel free to email me at thosemissingstitches@gmail.com. It's just something I'm considering at this point, and would definitely give me some color choices to do fabric drops in the future. But I really want to gauge what the interest is before I delve into something like that and put the work into it. Okay, so now let's get into my whips. I have whips from both October and November to show you. So we're going to have some Halloween, we're going to have some fall, we're going to have some Christmas, we're going to be all over the place. But of course, as always, I like to start with my stats. So for October, I worked on 11 projects. I did a total of 23,988 stitches. I had 2 new starts and 1 finish. One of my new starts was also a finish. And then for November, I worked on 8 projects. Some of them overlapped. I worked on in both months. And in November, a total of 27,122 stitches, 1 new start and 1 restart. So let's get into my whips. Okay, first I'm going to show you, this was my new start and my finish. This is called Vintage Halloween Dolls. It's by the Witchy Stitcher. It was in her book that she just released a couple months ago. You can get it on Amazon. I stitched this on 20 count fabric that was from my shop. It was a mist dye. It was a mist dye of Merciful Mercedes. It's a little darker. I don't think I could create this again, but it's close to Merciful Mercedes. And I did stitch it with the DMC that was called for 2/1 full cross. And here's my finish. I love this book. I love Witchy Stitcher. And this one was fun to stitch and only took me a few days, so it wasn't horrible. Love to just have another finish before the end of the year. Okay, next is another new start. I started this at Stitch West in Utah in October. This is the Stitch Witch by Tiny Modernist. I stitched this on a 20 count fabric that I did not write the name down, but it's by Live and Die LA. She was there as a vendor at Stitch West, so I bought this specifically to start this pattern, and it works perfectly. I am doing a color and cotton conversion that I just switched out the colors, 2 over 1 full cross, and I did a total of 1,756 stitches, which puts me at 14.23%. Tiny Modernist was there as the sponsored artist, so we got some we got some exclusive patterns for Stitch West as well, so I'm excited to start some of those as well. But here's where I am on Stitch Witch. And you can see in some of the, if I go in closer on some of the color and cotton conversions, there's that variegation in there, which looks really cool on the shirt. And I think will look really cool on the skin and the hair and stuff, like once I get some of that other stuff filled in. It's just a little bit different. I mean, they're very close to the actual DMC colors. It's just giving me that sort of variety with the variegation. Next is another new start. I have to tell a story with this one. So this is an artist that I follow on Etsy because Stitch is So Beautiful works for them, and I just kind of want to follow the art. I really like the art. So the artist is Adnell Studio on Etsy, and I saw this artwork. It's called Steampunk Christmas Tree, and I tried to chart it myself, and I was not very successful. So I knew it was an artist that Stitch is So Beautiful works with, and they've charted, I've had a request before for them to chart something for me from one of their other artists, and they did it really quick. So I reached out on this one, said I'm really interested if it's something you would consider charting, and they were very responsive, had it out and up on the website within a couple of days. So fantastic customer service, had it out, I bought it right away and started it right away. So I'm stitching this one on 25 count Easy Guide Lugana, 1 over 1 full cross with the called for DMC. I have done I believe I started it in November. Not entirely sure. But since I've been working on it, I've done a total of 3,505 stitches for 2.19%. Now, I did work on it the past 2 nights, so I'm not counting that total. I'm actually closer to 2.5, and what I'm going to show you, 2.5%. But here's where I'm at now with those extra 2 days as well. And I love it. Now, I ended up starting in the corner, but then I worked my way over because I really wanted to get into the tree, and I wanted to see the detail on one of these baubles. So I worked on stitching this one bauble here, and oh my goodness, it was confetti ridiculousness, but it came out gorgeous, and I'm really happy I did that because I can see that detail and see that I'm going to like the rest of the detail in the tree. I was a little worried. You know, it's hard to tell from mock-ups and Pattern Keeper if that pixelation that's showing in Pattern Keeper is really going to show on the pattern, or is it going to be a little more blended, or is it going to be, like, are you going to get the detail you want? And I'm definitely happy with how this is coming out. So excited to work on this one in December and see more progress in that tree. I love steampunk everything. Okay, this is another story one. So this is a restart. Thanks to Dawn Marie at DM's Crafty Vortex, who we've been chatting back and forth on Instagram. I had already started the 6 portals by Rose Catherine Kahn, and it's charted by Pain Free Crafts. I had started on 28 count Easy Guide Lugana and was doing 2 over 110 stitch with this called for, with CXC. And I got pretty far into it. I was up pretty far in, at least in the orange portal, and I started to get into some of the sky, and I just wasn't really liking it. I wasn't really liking it for several reasons. I wasn't really liking the color blends, and I think it was a combination of the tent stitch and the CXC was not quite color matches for the DMC. It was a little off, so there was more of a contrast in some of the sky than if I'd used the DMC. And I was seeing all these other people, including Dawn Marie, who restarted 1 over 1 full cross, and everybody else that I've seen working on this is doing full cross. So I thought, I'm going to try full cross on 25 count, which I can see a little better on, and I have a little easier time following than if I was doing tent stitch, where like some of those ninja stitches are, finding those holes. And I ended up really loving it. So I've scrapped my 10 stitch version, and I am working exclusively on this 25 count 1 over 1 full cross, and I am in love with the look of 25 count 1 over 1 full cross. Obviously I already started Steampunk Christmas Tree on that. I think that's going to be a go-to for a little while at least on my full coverage, but we'll see. I may go back to 10 stitch. Some of the pieces 10 stitch work. And I think it worked on this one. I just didn't like the combo of the 10 stitch with the CXC and how it wasn't really blending well in the sky especially. And some of the colors were a little more fluorescent and popping a little more and contrasting a little more than they should have blended well. So I think I would have been okay if I'd stuck with CSC and full cross, because Dawn Marie's looks great. She stuck with CXC and it looks fantastic. Or I probably would have been okay with DMC 10 stitch because the colors would have blended a little better. But I'm fine with, full cross with DMC. I do wish it was a little thicker coverage like CXC gives you. But now I'm sticking with it. I started on DMC. I'm sticking with it. So since my restart on this new version, I have done a total, I'm past where I was on the 10 stitch version. I'm now at 16,513 stitches for 1.71%. I'm going to show you, I have gone all the way across, but I'll show you the autumn portal first because that's where I got the majority of the work. And here's where I'm at. Let's see if I can flatten that. It is gorgeous. I am obsessed with this. I work on it almost every day. And I was actually disappointed to travel for Thanksgiving because I knew I couldn't see on 25 count traveling in the light source that I was going to. So I was excited to come home and work on this again. So it is just gorgeous. It's looking so good. It is very, very, very confetti heavy, but when it fills in, it's so worth it. So a lot of colors, a lot of color changes, but it's definitely worth it. So right now, I did complete the first 4 rows in this portal, and now I'm continuing on to the next 6. So this is 10 rows, or 100, lines, I guess, or 10. Oh my goodness. Okay, start over. Math. I do math for a living, and I can't even quick math right now. It is 100 rows. 10 blocks of 10. And then I did want, I do kind of want to work on this seasonally or whatever colors are actually inspiring me. So I did work all the way across to at least just get some sort of reference in the first row all the way across so I could get to any of the portals. So here's portal 1, here's portal 2 with the darker, I think it's 939, portal 3 with the brown, portal 4 with the blue, portal 5 is a lot lighter, very light blue, and then portal 6 with the purple. So all the way across, very, very big. It is huge. It's almost 1,000,000 stitches total. Probably something I'll never finish, especially now that I'm doing full cross. It's going to take me a lot longer. It's definitely taking me longer, but I think it's worth it. It is coming out really, really nice. Okay. Now let's get into my regular whips. So those are all my new starts. Now this is all stuff that you've seen before. So I'm going to try to go with the Halloween stuff first, and then I'll have like the wintry Christmas stuff at the very end. So first, this is Spells and Potions by Erin Elizabeth Designs. I am stitching this one on 22 count Marvelous Meg, which is color from my shop, and I am considering carrying 22 count Hardinger in my shop. I do have a bolt of it right now, and I've had some people interested in it, so I might start carrying it more long term. Here's where I was the last time I showed it. I'm stitching this with Roxy Floss Co. Great Lakes 1/1 full cross, and I did a total in October, November combined. I did a total of 689 stitches. Now in total I'm at 1,672 stitches for 14.25%. And here's where I'm at. Very, very, it's a very dark blue, but it looks almost black on there. Okay, next is Witch's Hollow. This is by Autumn Lane Stitchery. I am stitching this one on 20 count Genial Ginny, which is a color from my shop, with the called for DMC 2/1 full cross. Here's where I was the last time I showed this. In October, I don't think I worked on this in November, so it's just October numbers. I did an additional 2,114 stitches, and now in total I'm at 7,349 stitches for 33.34%. Here's where I'm at now. Worked on this mostly at Stitch West. It was a 20 count, was an easier one to see, like when I travel or in the hotel. So love how this is coming out, and it looks great on that orange. Okay, next is Stephen King House. This is another Witchy Stitcher pattern. I'm stitching this one on 20 count Startling Steerforth, which is a color from my shop again. I'm using the called for DMC 2/1 full cross. In October, November, I added an additional 430 stitches. Now in total, I'm at 3,691 stitches for 23.83%. Oh, here's where I was. I don't think I said that. Here's where I was the last time I showed it before the additional 430 stitches. And then here's where I'm at now. So got a little bit more in the roof, got that roof done, and got some of that brown in the roof. Okay, next is Trick or Treat Town. This is by Flossabilities. I'm stitching this one on 18 Count Haunted by Picture This Plus with the called for DMC 2/1 full cross. It's another one I worked on at Stitch West and got a lot of people asking about this. And Flossabilities actually just came out with a very similar pattern for Christmas. It's the same houses, but with different, like, more Christmassy colors. I probably will buy it at some point, but I think I want to finish this one first since it's the same houses and stitching the same thing just in different colors. So in October, November, I did an additional 1,760 stitches. Now in total, I'm at 5,523 stitches for 34.34%. And here's where I'm at. I love working on this one. I love houses. They're coming out really cool. Like that Victorian kind of style. Kind of spooky, but gorgeous at the same time. Okay, next is non-Halloween stuff, just my normal stuff. This is Mansfield Park Quaker by Twin Peaks Primitive. I'm stitching this one on 22 count antique white hardinger. I'm using all the called for DMC with an exception of a sub 316 for 223, one of the pinks. Here's where I was the last time I showed it. And in October, November, I added an additional, very minimal, 165 stitches. And now in total, I'm at 3,014 stitches for 15.71%. And here's where I'm at now. Really just did a little bit of this like peach motif here, and that's it. This was one of my gridiron grind pieces, and I've definitely fallen off the wagon with that challenge. I haven't done anything in several weeks. Because I've been working on the 6 portals almost exclusively. So just taking the inspiration where it sends me. Next is another gridiron grind piece that I did work on a bit until I fell off the wagon on that one. This is by Tenderness of Heart by Modern Folk Embroidery. I'm stitching this one on 25 count Silvery Moon Lugana with Stitchy, the floss I'm using is Stitchy Stuff Co. Cerise Noir. I'm probably saying that wrong. I'm stitching it 1/1 full cross. Here's where I was the last time I showed it. In October and November, I did an additional 532 stitches. Now in total, I'm at 3,787 stitches for 62.74%. So getting close, but probably will not finish it like I hoped I would by the end of the year. But here's where I'm at now. And of course, Jane Austen inspired. Loving my Jane Austen. One of my favorites. So here's a better look. It's a little purpley for the color of the floss. Tiny bit of variegation, but it's hard to see on camera. Okay, next is Fruits of Plenty. This was for the Whip into Shape challenge that Andrew the Runner Stitcher was hosting, and he did actually complete the New York Marathon. So congratulations, Andrew. I'm so happy for you. And I really loved working on this project as part of that challenge. So I am stitching this one. This is Fruits of, I don't know if I said that. Oh my gosh, I'm losing my way. Fruits of Plenty by Modern Folk Embroidery. I'm stitching this on 25 count Silvery Moon Lugana with DMC, I think 3750 and 932. Here's where I was the last time I showed it. And in October, November, I did an additional 1,389 stitches. And now in total, I'm at 32,817 for 69.24%. And here's where I'm at now. I do still love this project. I'm probably not going to work on it in December because I have so many other things I'm working on, but it's definitely coming back out in January and like the wintry. I'm definitely feeling like the seasonal colors, like blue in January and February for sure, maybe even pink in February, like feeling the seasons. Worked on a little bit of that, I think finishing that snowflake hexagon and then working my way down below it. Okay, next is an oldie but goodie. This is Night Circus Lovely number 7. The artist is Jessica Jackson and is charted by the Sewing Shop Inc. I'm stitching this one on 25 count Easy Guide Lugana 3/1 10 stitch. Here's where I was the last time I showed it, which was quite a while ago, but I broke this one out again at the very beginning of October, and I did an additional 786 stitches, and now in total I'm at 43,963 stitches for 27.61%, and here's where I'm at now. Just worked on her eyes and her face a little bit more. I really want to kind of finish her eyes and fill in her eyes and then the rest of her face, and then I'll probably go back to color completing. So love her. Love how she's coming out. Look at those eyes. So gorgeous. And this one works as 10 stitch. It's just fine. Even with the black, it's filling in well. So I'm going to continue. Like, this one worked fine. And the coverage is good. But I think stuff like 6 portals or even the Steampunk Christmas tree that has more edges and more defined detail, I probably will stick with full cross. Okay, this is another 10 stitch one. This is McGonagall's Library. This is charted by the Cross Stitch Studio. I'm stitching this one on 28 count Easy Guide Lugana 2/1 10 stitch with CXC since it's a little thicker. And here's where I was the last time I showed it. And in October and November, I added an additional 4,533 stitches. And in total, I'm at 56,589 stitches for 8.84%. So another giant one. I think it's like 800,000 or more stitches. It's quite a lot. So this is going to take me a long time too if I ever even finish it. But here's where I'm at now. Ooh, can't even fit it on screen. So I'm color completing the black, but I decided I want to finish a book. So I'm looking at this red book, filling in this red book right there. If I'm even showing it on camera, I don't know. Yes. Just to see something filled in and see if I like the detail. But this is, I mean, it's coming out gorgeous. I love working on this one. It's so easy to just stick with one color and stitch one color and get some of that done. That one's kind of taking a back seat too. Just 6 portals is taking over my whole life. Okay. Next is the Christmas stitching, which I got into in November and took with me traveling for the Thanksgiving holiday too. So most of my work I got on these was over Thanksgiving. This one is Dasher and Dancer by Hobby House Press. I'm stitching this one on 20 count Heavenly Hero with Forbidden Fiber Code Dark Cherry 2/1 full cross. Here's where I was the last time I showed this, which I think was like last year during Christmas time. I don't think I've worked on it all this year. But in November, I added an additional 941 stitches. And now in total, I'm at 4,272 stitches for 19.99%. If I could just get to that 20. I'm sure I will in December. Here's where I'm at now. Added some more of the letters and then a little bit of that motif by the deer. I'm loving this one. Love the color. That dark cherry is just this beautiful cranberry color. Okay, my next Christmas piece is so close to a finish on this one. This is Kringles by Little House Needleworks. I'm stitching this one on 18 count Admirable Atticus, which is a color from my shop, with the called for DMC and specialty thread. I think I subbed out eggshell for a whiter, for 3865, or a whiter one because the eggshell was just blending too much into the fabric. So I did sub one thing. This is a paper pattern, so I'm not entirely sure what the total stitches are. But in November, I added an additional 973 stitches, and in total, I'm at 23,854. I just don't know how much of a percentage that is. And here's where I'm at. Here's where I was the last time I showed this, which again, I think was last year, and I've just broken this one out again. So close to a finish again, and here's where I'm at now. Just have to finish these last 3 windows, and then backstitch and a whole lot of beading. I was hoping to finish it this year, but we'll have to see. I'm limited, very, very limited on time, especially with having to catch up with some of my fabric inventory. So we'll see. Still love it though. I do plan on finishing it. It just may not be this year. Okay, and last but not least is my Mamma Jamma. Of course, is not my Mamma Jamma anymore. It's actually my 3rd smallest piece now, or third largest piece. The Grand Library. This is the regular size max color version. The artist is Amy Stewart and is charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. I'm stitching this one on 18 count Easy Guide Ada with the called for DMC 2/1 full cross. Here's where I was the last time I showed this. And my goal was to get to 60% by the end of the year, and I have accomplished that. I did not have to do a ton to get there. I only did an additional 450 stitches in October and November, but it got me to that total of 241,735 stitches for 60.02%. Here's where I was. I don't know if I said that again. I'm losing my way, but here's where I was the last time I showed this. And then I'm just going to show you this section I was working on, which doesn't show you much, but I will show you a picture of everything once I lay it all out. And here's where I worked on, which is the section. Here's the romance section over here. And this is next to the romance and coming into the section with the chair. Right in the middle with the chair and the fireplace. So excited to be at 60% on this one. Really don't know where the next couple years are going to take me, especially now that I have all these other, I'm really inspired on the 25 count full coverage stuff, but we'll see. I do want to actually make a goal to get this done in a certain amount of time. So I'll probably set myself a monthly stitching goal on this one and just try to hash it out and see some progress on this one as well. So that is it for all of my stitching. If you've stuck around this long, thank you. I am going to talk about books. So if books is not something you're interested in hearing about, I hope to see you next time, and I hope you subscribe, and I'll see you then. Hope you enjoy your holidays as well. So if you are sticking around, let's talk books. I'm going to do it a little different this time because I'm catching up on 2 months. I don't want to talk too long or give too many spoilers, so I'm really just going to kind of sectionalize it and give just a bit of a blurb and talk about the ones that are maybe I don't necessarily recommend or were maybe okay, or the ones that I really, really enjoyed, so that you can maybe focus on the ones that I really enjoyed more. So in October and November, I did read a total of 13 books. So for the ones that I wouldn't really recommend, the first one is Sanditon, I think is the way you pronounce it, by Kate Reardon. So as a standalone, I think this book would be fine. But since it's an adaptation of a book that was started by Jane Austen, I did not like it. I did watch the series on TV, and I liked the series. It was great as a TV show, just not great as a relation to anything to Jane Austen, or trying to put it in the perspective of like, this is something that was her story. Because you can absolutely tell the transition point between the storyline that Jane wrote and when Kate Reardon took over, and it's not good. It's a totally different style, totally different storylines than anything Jane would ever write. So I've heard there's another adaptation that's out there that was written by, I think, one of Jane Austen's relatives, her niece or one of her other relatives, that is closer to her style and is a totally different storyline and how they take the characters in the story. So I'm interested in reading that at some point, and hopefully it kind of redeems the storyline if I do that. Next, that was just the only one that I would say I don't really recommend. The other ones, these were okay. I'm kind of on the fence of whether they definitely weren't great, but they were okay reads. So the first two were No More Secrets and Fall into Temptation by Lucy Score. These are books 1 and 2 of the Blue Moon series. They were okay. Definitely not Lucy Score's best series of the ones that I like of hers, but as I've said before several times in my book recommendations, when it comes to the romance genre, like having hidden secrets and lack of communication that's so typical in this genre, just and prevalent in these, just bother me sometimes. So I did really like the characters in these, especially the kids and the relationships between the brothers that are in the books and the kids that are in the second book. But otherwise it was kind of like any other romance. I don't think there was anything special that really stood out to me on these. So that's why I think they were okay. Next I read Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. I did like the mystery of it. It's on an island with very few people and some mystery behind it. And I did want to know what happened, but otherwise it was okay and a little fantastical with how it ended up turning out. Of what the mystery ended up being. It was still good. I finished it and I still liked it, but it was just, it was okay. Next I read Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This is a second in her series of Ali Hazelwood kind of taking a stab at the romantasy genre. And again, it was okay. Some of the storyline felt like smut for smut's sake, and it went a little overboard for me. However, I will say, after I read it, I saw some fan art on Instagram that was fantastic. And I wish I would have seen that first because it probably would have changed like my vision of the book a little bit. So well done for whoever did the fan art. That was great. Okay, next I read Quicksilver by Callie Hart. This is after extensive romantasy discussions with Kef at Stitch West and my table mates. This was one of the recommendations that they said I have to read, so it's highly recommended, but I thought it was okay. Again, me personally, I'm not the biggest fantasy fan, so it has to be a really good storyline for me to really enjoy it. So I was a little distracted. Part of the issue is I was a little distracted by the fact that the main character's name is Sarah Spain, and every time I heard or like read her name or her name was said, I kept thinking of Seraphine from the Gilded Age, which is a totally different looking image than what this particular character was. But I kept picturing Seraphine every time the full name was said. So my mental picture was kind of thrown off by this, and I think that might have thrown me off from the whole book. Oddly, it's just a name, but it was so close that I kept thinking of the image of this other person, which is totally different from what this character is. So that bothered me a little bit and probably made me not enjoy it as much. Next I read We'll Always Have Summer by Jenny Han. This is book 3 of the Summer I Turned Pretty series, which the series was showing on Amazon Prime, and I did watch it. I feel like some of the stuff was missing from the series that was in the book, and some of the stuff that was in the series was added that kind of helped bring it all together in the storyline. Overall, I do think the series on Prime did a decent job of following the books. I pictured the characters pretty different when I was reading it, especially Conrad, but overall, I think they did a pretty good job. And again, it's a young adult genre, so they were okay. Quick reads. They were easy to get through. Cute storyline, and I thought they brought it together well. But again, not something that I would be like, yes, you have to read it. I totally recommend it. But here are the ones that I would recommend. I definitely recommended my favorites from my reads in October and November. So on my quest to reread all of Jane Austen's books in 2025 for the 250th anniversary of her birthday, I read Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This is a little different from some of her other books. It's cute and funny in parts with the premise of like messing with the main character, Catherine, and scaring her about staying in this abbey and how it's haunted and scary and things. And she takes it for real and gets scared. And the abbey in a way becomes kind of an added character to this book, which is a little unique to some of her other books. So this is a cute one. Definitely not like the most romantic, but an interesting story with adding the Abbey as a different character almost. Okay, next I read The Hard Way by Lee Child. I do like the Jack Reacher series. There's something about it, and Lee Child's like form of writing these particular series. So I feel like they're just really fast-paced. I haven't been disappointed in them. They're smart, they're mysterious, they're not super scary, they're full of action, and just quick. Just quick, and like the cadence of it is just super smart and super direct, and like I don't know how to describe it. You don't have to read them in order. It doesn't really matter. It's just something that I throw in there when I just want a good read that I'm really into, like solving the mystery. So Lee Child does a really good job with that. So I recommend this one, any of the Jack Reacher series. Next I read The 100 Years of Lenny and Margot by Marianne Cronin. This one is very quirky characters, very heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time, and I cried my eyes out. This was great. So I definitely recommend this one. It does take place in a hospital, in like a hospice situation. So it is very sad, but very funny and quirky, and love the characters. Great job on writing this one. Next one I read is This Time Tomorrow by Emily Straub. This is a time travel premise, which sometimes I love and sometimes I hate, but I did like this one. And the premise of like being able to time travel and what you can potentially change and potentially really, really mess up if you have the ability to actually travel and change things. So overall, well done with the different changes that the character made and ultimately the lessons that were learned from this one. Well done with the effects. What typically bothers me about time travel storylines is doing them wrong. Like how much would actually, the ripple effect and how many things would potentially be affected by making these changes. And I think they did a decent job of this one. Next is Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. Probably one of my favorite reads of 2025. There is this mystery taking place on a deserted island with one man living there with his 3 kids. It was some type of like science stuff going on the island, but we don't really know the mystery of what happened and where all the scientists went. A woman just randomly washes up on shore one day, and the mystery gets even thicker. Great characters and great character development. Some very sad circumstances related to all of the individual stories and the people involved that used to live on the island, that currently live on the island, and really like nature-wise, a lot of nature stuff going on, and the destruction of nature and the evolution of nature and things that are happening with the world. Kind of a little futuristic with some of that too and what might happen. So very well done and well written. Just love the characters and how this one turned out. And last but not least, my favorite of the last 2 months that I read was The Humans by Matt Haig. I'm a fan of Matt Haig. I've loved all his books that I've read. This one was no exception. This one was super funny. So the premise is an alien comes down to Earth and inhabits the body of a human. And he's just kind of narrating from his perspective how really ridiculous some of humans like how odd we are as a species and how some of our really strange habits are pointed out, how funny it is when they get pointed out and how ridiculous we are, and how ridiculous they sound coming from an outsider's perspective. So there were several moments reading this book that I laughed out loud that yeah, that is kind of weird. That does sound funny. Yeah, that does sound ridiculous. So it was really well done and I really loved this book and would recommend it. So that was it for my October-November reading. Hopefully you like this format a little better with just a little bit of a blurb rather than like a full synopsis or spoiling anything for anybody. Hopefully that gives you some ideas of some recommendations that you'd be interested in reading. If you made it this far, thank you for joining me. I do hope you subscribe and you join me next time. I hope everybody has a fantastic month, enjoys their holidays, and has a fantastic month of stitching and reading, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.